Good morning. This is Jacob, and it's the 28th, and I want to share and read Proverbs 28 this morning. And I'll go ahead and read that and share a few words. So, Proverbs 28. It says, "The wicked flee when no one is pursuing, but the righteous are bold as a lion. By the transgression of a land, many are its princes, but by a man of understanding and knowledge, so it endures. A poor man who oppresses the lowly is like a driving rain which leaves no food. Those who forsake the law praise the wicked, but those who keep the law strive with them. Evil men do not understand justice, but those who seek the Lord understand all things. Better is the poor who walks in his integrity than he who is crooked though he be rich. He who keeps the law is a discerning son, but he who is a companion of gluttons humiliates his father. He who increases his wealth by interest and usury gathers it for him who is gracious to the poor. He who turns away his ear from listening to the law, even his prayer is an abomination. He who leads the upright astray in an evil way will himself fall into his own pit. But the blameless will inherit good. The rich man is wise in his own eyes, but the poor who has understanding sees through him. When the righteous triumph, there is great glory, but when the wicked rise, men hide themselves. He who conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them will find compassion. How blessed is the man who fears always, but he who hardens his heart will fall into calamity. Like a roaring lion and a rushing bear is a wicked ruler over a poor people. A leader who is a great oppressor lacks understanding, but he who hates unjust gain will prolong his days. A man who is laden with the guilt of human blood will be a fugitive until death. Let no one support him. He who walks blamelessly will be delivered, but he who is crooked will fall all at once. He who tills his land will have plenty of food, but he who follows empty pursuits will have poverty and plenty. A faithful man will abound with blessings, but he who makes haste to be rich will not go unpunished. To show partiality is not good, because for a piece of bread a man will transgress. A man with an evil eye hastens after wealth, and does not know that want will come upon him. He who rebukes a man will afterward find more favor than he who flatters with the tongue. He who robs his father or his mother and says, "It is not a transgression," is the companion of a man who destroys. An arrogant man stirs up strife, but he who trusts in the Lord will prosper. He who trusts in his own heart is a fool, but he who walks wisely will be delivered. He who gives to the poor will never want, but he who shuts his eyes will have many curses. When the wicked rise, men hide themselves, but when they perish, the righteous increase. This is Proverbs 28, and it's a really beautiful Proverbs today, and it's just amazing the wisdom that is spoken here. Um, the verse that really stuck out to me is verse 9, and it says, "He who turns away his ear from listening to the law, even his prayer is an abomination." Um, the law. We have I think a lot of us carry a misconception of the law, what the law is, and and I'm reminded of the verse that says, "He who looks into the perfect law of liberty," which is Jesus, and I got to go back to Psalm chapter 1, and it says, "How blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. And but I'm kind of like astounded that um, the man who in verse 9 says, "He who turns away his ear from listening to the law, even his prayer is an abomination." Um, I think well, listening comes before speaking, because you're either listening and you're channeled into the spirit, or you're channeled into the flesh. There's no other options. And we also know that faith comes from hearing. And so listening supersedes speaking. Listening, I mean, it's kind of common sense, but yet not really. Not everybody knows this. And the verse that comes to mind is, be slow to speak and quick to listen and slow to become angry. And that's in James, I believe. Don't take my word on that. But yeah, everyone must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And here it says, he who turns away his ear from listening to the law. So the question is, what are we listening to? Or better yet, who are we listening to? Are we listening to the thoughts from above that we know come from above, or are we listening to earthly wisdom? Are we fixing our minds on things above or on things below? You know, for as high as the heavens are from the earth, so are my ways from your ways, and my thoughts from your thoughts, declares the Lord. And that just kind of spoke to me this morning. And I just see this proverb as just telling us how to live. And I took the other day at my wife's classroom. There's this sign on the classroom, and it's a junior high classroom. It's a special ed junior high classroom, and it's very simple. And it says it's like how to make a choice, and it says making a choice. There's outcome A and outcome B, and then like it shows you, like, here's what you're about to do, and here's outcome A if you do it, or here's outcome B if you don't do it. Now you need to make a choice, and it's just kind of beautiful to like play that tape out before you make that choice. Play that tape out and see which one is best. Make the best choice, and hopefully we're making a lot of more best choices. It's kind of an elementary, junior high thing, but it's so applicable. And here I'm referring to that here with Proverbs, and how this Proverbs 28 and other Proverbs too really play things out. They play things out for us. Like verse 13. Like, here's an example. He who conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them will find compassion. There's a result. Like, he who does this, it'll result in this. You choose this, it'll result in that. And if you confess and forsake your transgressions, you will find compassion. If you don't, you will not prosper. And so it's like we need to be listening to this wisdom, because it's not just a guidebook. It's not just, here's some advice. This is a way to live life. This is the life, the abundant part of the abundant life that Jesus Christ set us free in. And he set us free. It was for freedom that Christ set you free. Turn there real quick. Galatians 5:1. Galatians 5, chapter 1, it says, "It was for freedom that Christ set us free. Therefore keep standing firm, and do not be subject again to a yoke of slavery." What is a yoke of slavery? It's the flesh. If you're a believer, you've been put in Christ. If you're a believer, you've been nailed, your old life is nailed to the cross in Christ. He did it. Christ did it. Supernatural thing, but I believe it, and it's happened. It's what he did 2,000 years ago. It goes both directions. It goes as far back in past history, and it goes forever and ever in eternity. We saw that yesterday in the Psalm 47. And that's why he says it is finished. It's finished. What he did on the cross 2,000 years ago enabled Jacob Kimball and whoever you are to be free if you're in Christ. So, like, the yoke of slavery is putting on the shackles and working for the other man. And Romans chapter 6 talks about this. It talks about presenting yourselves as, and therefore do not let sin reign in your mortal body, so that you obey its loves. Let me back up. Verse 11. It says, "Even so, consider yourselves to be dead to sin, but alive to God in Christ Jesus." So you're dead to sin. Count yourselves dead to sin, but alive to God in Christ Jesus. What does that look like? It means actively pursuing Him. It means letting Christ. In Galatians 2:20, it says, "For I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. In this life I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave Himself up for me." So what is this? If we're not to put on a yoke of slavery, what are we to put on? Put on Christ. Put on Christ. Let Him seep into into who you are, into your inner man, into your being. Let Him and walk in His life. Live in Christ. Live in Christ. And how to the unbelieving mind, that concept, and even the believer, young believers, it's just a huge theological thing. But at the same time, it's pretty simple. Christ beat death. He was raised from the dead. He's called the resurrection and the life. Guess what, guys? He's still alive. And He lives, and He still walks the earth in His sons and His daughters by His Spirit, which remains and settles in us and lives in us. And this is foolishness to some. This is absolute foolishness to some, but this is a spiritual, real reality. What we see is not going on around us is not merely physical. There's beautiful things going on and horrific things. But this is a spiritual thing. If your inner man has been made alive with Christ, you are now in Christ. And now working that out is denying yourself, taking up your cross, and following Him, following Christ. And that process includes just saying, "No, that's not my life. That's not who I am. That's the old man. That's the old Jacob. That's the old person. I'm going to walk in newness. I'm going to live the life that Christ has in front of me, which is in Him." And it's a contrast. And so it was for freedom that Christ set us free. Therefore, keep standing firm and do not be subject again to a yoke of slavery. We don't need to put on that yoke of slavery, but we do. We do. We just gravitate towards it, and we think that that's what we need to do. We yeah, I guess I screwed up today, so I need to put on this yoke because that's who I am. No, that's not true at all. What's true is that you've been put in Christ if you're a believer, if you're a saint. Anyway, that's it for today, and that's Proverbs 28. This is Jacob, and be blessed.